Hello and welcome to another Math and Physics with Meghan video. In this video today we are going to be discussing basic trigonometry and how to apply the mnemonic SOH CAH TOA. So trigonometry is a topic that is introduced in most grade 10 curriculums, and you will see it carried on into grade 11. And then it becomes a very important tool, something that is kind of assumed knowledge for grade 12 and into most university and college mathematics. So it's quite an important topic. So there is a famous mnemonic that goes along with trigonometry called SOH CAH TOA. And a lot of people get confused about how we can apply this mnemonic and how we can make it work for us. So the first thing that we need to talk about is labeling the sides of our triangle. So of course every triangle has three sides, and this mnemonic applies specifically to triangles that have a right angle. So one of the angles in the triangle will be equal to 90 degrees. So I've drawn an example here, and I've already gone ahead and labeled one of the sides as the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is always exactly across from that right angle. It's the longest side in the triangle, and it's always directly across from the right angle. So that's always the hypotenuse. And commonly this gets referred to as H because it starts with the letter H. Then also in the triangle, we're going to have two other sides, and those are called opposite and adjacent. And this is the part that where it gets a little bit hairy, because the opposite side and the adjacent side, where that goes, actually depends on the angle that you are considering. So in the upper triangle here, I've drawn the angle that I'm considering to be the one on the bottom right corner. And so the opposite side here is going to be the one that is directly across from that bottom angle. So it's going to be the side this vertical side on the left hand side here. So this is the opposite side in this case. And then that means that the one that's left that doesn't have a label already, that's going to be adjacent. But if we're considering the top angle here, as we are in the bottom triangle, maybe we're given that angle or we're asked to find it, then opposite is going to be the angle at the bottom of the triangle. So directly across from that upper angle is the side at the bottom of the triangle, and so this side here is going to be opposite, and so that leaves adjacent to be the vertical side of the triangle. So depending on which angle you're considering, which angle you may be given in the problem, or maybe you're asked to find a certain angle, depending on that angle, the labeling of opposite and adjacent will change. So just be aware of that fact. So now that we understand how to label the different sides of the triangle, we can talk about how to actually apply SOH CAH TOA. So in the mnemonic SOH CAH TOA, you see three blocks of three letters. Each of those blocks corresponds to a different trig ratio. So there are three trig ratios: sine, cosine, and tangent. And we write them like this. So the first one is sine, and it looks like just sine theta. And then we've got cosine, that's cos theta. And then we've got the tangent, that's tan theta. So we have these three trig ratios, and what the mnemonic does for us is it tells us which sides to use in order to calculate each of these ratios. So the SO part, SOH, in the mnemonic refers to the sine because the first letter is S, so S for sine. And then the last two letters, we have O and H. So that tells us opposite and hypotenuse. So what you do is you take the first letter, so for a sine it's O, or opposite, and you divide by the second letter, so H for hypotenuse. So that first block, SOH, tells us that sine is equal to O over H, or opposite over hypotenuse. Similarly, for cos theta, we're going to look at the CA part. So the C stands for cos, the A stands for adjacent, and H stands for hypotenuse. So cos is adjacent divided by hypotenuse. And then last but not least, we have tan, and we're going to use the TOA part of the mnemonic. The T stands for tan, the O stands for opposite, and the A stands for adjacent. So tan is opposite divided by adjacent, or opposite over adjacent. So that's all well and good, but now let's go ahead and talk about how to apply these formulas. So let's do a quick example. I'm going to set up a triangle here, very similar to what we had in the example on the left. And I'm going to say that the hypotenuse is 12 units, and I'm going to give the angle in the left-hand corner, or the right-hand corner here, a measure of 30 degrees. And of course, this angle in the left-hand corner will be a right angle, so we can go ahead and apply SOH CAH TOA. So for this example, what we're going to do is we're going to try to find this side length at the bottom of the triangle. What is the numerical value? How long is that side length? So when you're approaching a SOH CAH TOA question, the first thing that you want to do is try to determine, okay, where's the hypotenuse, where's opposite, where's adjacent. So the hypotenuse, as always, is the side that's directly across from the 90 degrees. So it's the one that's labeled as 12 right now. This would be the hypotenuse. And then the angle that we're given is the one in the right-hand corner. So the opposite side from that angle is the vertical side. So opposite goes over here. And then the side that we're trying to find is actually the adjacent. So now that we've labeled those three things, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what we're being asked to find and what we're given. So we're being asked to find the adjacent, and we're given hypotenuse. Since our calculation or our question is concerning adjacent and hypotenuse, we're going to go ahead and use the cos formula. So I'm just going to jot down cos theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. Once you've got that trig ratio written down, you can go ahead and start slotting things in. So what I mean by that is if it's something that we have, then we're going to substitute. So the theta, for example, is something that we have. That's equal to 30 degrees. Adjacent we don't have, but we're calling it just x at this point, so we can just write x instead of a if we want to. It doesn't really matter. And then for hypotenuse, we're going to sub in 12 because that's what we were given for hypotenuse. Now, in terms of cosine of 30 degrees, you're going to go ahead and get your calculator, press the cos button. It should just say COS, and then 30, and then equals. And that will give you a decimal number. Should always be less than 1. So cosine of 30 is 0.866, and that's still equal to x over 12. And so for the last step of this problem, let's go up here. We want to solve for x. Right now, x is being divided by 12. So in order to reverse a division, we're going to multiply, and we need to multiply on both sides. So we're going to multiply by 12 on the right hand side. That will cancel out the 12, like so. And then we're going to do 0.866 times 12 on the left hand side. So 0.866 times 12 is 10.4. So there we go. We have 10.4 equals x, or we can also just write that as x equals 10.4. So that side of the triangle is 10.4 units long. Just as a general note, if you ever find an opposite or an adjacent that is bigger than the hypotenuse, then you've made a mistake, because the hypotenuse should always be the longest side in the triangle. So this is great. We've got a side length that's a little bit less than the hypotenuse, and we're good to go. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please feel free to share it with your friends and family, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.